What's up everybody, 40 the Broadway Saiyan here, and welcome back again to my YouTube channel, yet again with another video on Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia. In today's video, we're going to be continuing my The Art of series, and this time it's going to be focused on one of my favorite characters in all Final Fantasy, Rydia from Final Fantasy IV. She is going to be getting the debut of her C90, a rework, and as well as the debut of her LD weapon soon on Global Opera Omnia. But before we talk about that, I want to take the time to shout out 5 of my YouTube membership members. They are going to be Simply Lost 30, VL, King Omega, Verite X, and Chaos Control 83. Thank you guys again so much for your support. Guys, if you want to become a YouTube member on my YouTube channel, it only costs 99 cents per month. You're going to have access to a special badge next to your name. You'll have access to exclusive emotes that are only available on my YouTube memberships. And you're also going to be shouted out alongside 5 others on videos that I upload. And last but certainly not least, you guys will automatically be entered into a drawing for a $15 monthly gift card giveaway that I will be doing at the end of every month. So all of that for 99 cents a month to support me on my YouTube memberships. But without further ado, let's go ahead and dive right into the Art of Rydia. So for those of you who are unfamiliar with what Rydia does in Opera Omnia, she is a magic damage dealer. She specializes in the water element with the ability to enchant the party and at the same time imperil enemies with water. She now will be able to provide 100% evasion to the party, and we'll get to that when we talk about her upgrades. And speaking of her upgrades, she now forces enemies to be weak to the water element regardless of how they interact with the water element. And again, we're going to get to that when we actually talk about her upgrades. So that's pretty cool in what she can actually do now with the upgrades that she gets in Global Opera Omnia. So to start things off, we're going to go ahead and touch up on her rework. So starting things off with her Skill 1 Flare 4, it now deals 4 HP attacks with HP splash damage, and it now has a greater Brave potency. Her Skill 2 Summon Leviathan will also be reworked, now dealing 2 split AoE HP attacks with a greater Brave potency. It now has Stolen and Brave Overflow. It now refunds Brave after HP damage dealt by the first HP attack, and it now inflicts Water Imperil after the first HP attack that is dealt. Her C65 weak damage up all with the C88 extension is now gonna be increasing the potency of the party weakness damage up, and will also be adding party brave damage cap up. And then her EX Summon Dragon C85 extension will now allow this ability to deal 3 AoE HP attacks, and it also now inflicts her Water Imperil after the first HP attack dealt, and the EX buff allows her to retain a certain amount of Brave after she deals HP damage. So this is very similar to like Ursula, where Ursula will deal HP damage and retain a certain amount of Brave. I believe also Iroha does this. I get those two mixed up, but pretty much Rydia's EX buff now allows her to do this, giving her a lot more self-sustainability, which is quite nice. Now we're going to go ahead and talk about her actual new ability, which is going to be her LD. This is called Radiant Breath. It deals 4 split AoE HP attacks. It has Defense Ignore. Something to note, her EX also has Defense Ignore. This has Stolen Brave Overflow and refunds her Brave after the HP attacks except the last. It inflicts an LD debuff called Water Weakness after the first HP attack dealt. It grants her buff Mother's Dragon and grants the party Blink. It also grants her a free skill usage of her Skill 1, Skill 2, or her C65 on her next turn. Now let's go ahead and go over the debuff and the 2 buffs that come from her LD. So to start things off, her LD debuff Water Weakness will be inflicting Water Imperil, and this is what forces enemies to be weak to the water element despite their natural interaction with the element. So even if they are immune or absorb water, well, guess what? Rydia is going to force them to be weak to it, which is really, really unique and really cool. Now, while this debuff is active, other Water Imperil debuffs cannot be inflicted. So just keep that in mind. You can't stack other Water Imperil debuffs while this particular one is active. Now, the self-LD buff, Mother's Dragon, which she grants to herself, gives her self-attack up, HP damage up, and Stolen Max Brave Overflow up. And then it also gives the party attack up, HP damage up, and Stolen Max Brave Overflow up. And then the party LD buff Blink is actually pretty cool because 1, it has no turn duration, This is granted to each party member at 3 stacks. This gives them 100% evasion, meaning they can't take damage, and then the stacks will decrease after evading. So it's like Rydia is giving you an opportunity to avoid damage and essentially be a lot more reckless and aggressive while you have this buff active, as long as it doesn't get dispelled. So that's pretty powerful. So what are my overall summary and thoughts with Rydia? So I think she's a fantastic damage enabler, having the ability to force an elemental weakness on enemies. She has solid personal damage with full investment and good self-sustainability. I think she's fairly easy to slot in the party, although you want to watch out for having other buffers with her, because you want at least her EX and both LD buffs to be active. So that's 3 buffs you want to manage with her to be active. She does have a skill 2 buff, which is Water Enchant, but I would say that one is a little less important. It's the other ones that you want active, and her LD debuff is her most important debuff to have active, obviously because she forces the water weakness. That blink buff can be a huge lifesaver, even as a call, because the call actually will give you that blink buff. However, lethal Lufenia orbs and guaranteed damage attacks will still get through. And then one more thing that I want to mention with Rydia before I go into some actual gameplay is her whip type weapon is a rarity among the rest of the cast. There's not a lot of characters that use whip, so I would tread cautiously if you decide to create a whip Ultima weapon. You may want to if you're actually going to use Rydia in the party, because she's actually pretty fun to use, having that force water elemental weakness. But remember, with that Ultima weapon, while it will be amping up her damage, it is a rarer weapon within the cast, so just keep that in mind. So I didn't do any gameplay, but which I'm going to go ahead and do now. So Rydia does start off with both her EX and her LD buff already active, and she's already going to auto-inflict her water weakness LD debuff. So enemies will already be forced to be weak to water, which is pretty cool with Rydia. So remember, she does have access to her EX right at the start of the battle, so you could go ahead and use that. But what I personally like to do is actually go right into the LD first, so then that way next turn I get a free skill usage, and I also have Blink active on the party. Now we're going to go ahead and just have the cipher called delay, because I don't want to get interrupted. Okay. And also let me know how you guys think about me switching up the order like this for my videos, like going over like everything and then giving you my summary and thoughts, and then actually going into the gameplay right afterwards. Let me know if that helps you guys more so than the way that I've been doing it prior, where I do it in between while I'm talking about things. So like I said earlier, I like to personally go into LD. Sure, it may be wasting the recast on the what do you call it, the EX recast charge is what I'm trying to say, but I personally want to use that right away. That way it refreshes her LD buff, and we also get the free skill usage, and we have Blink active. So now I have 2 options here. What I could usually do is go into the free C65, which I personally like to do, or you could use the free skill on her skill 2. The reason why I choose her skill 2 is because it gives her another framed buff, which is Water Enchant. But for the purposes of the video, and I honestly think it's better to go with this, is to go with the free C65 first, since we have less usage of that, and then afterwards go right into her skill 2. And then after this, you could just go right into EX. And remember, EX and LD are not only her hardest hitting skills, but they both have defense ignore, which is really nice. And then from here on out, it's really not that hard to play. You generally want to be pressing her skill 1. This probably does the most damage outside of her other skills. And then afterwards, when you notice that Blink is about to run out, or one of her buffs is about to run out, or maybe the debuff needs to be reinflicted, just press that LD button and you're good to go. So all in all, that is Rydia in a nutshell for the Art of Rydia. Hopefully this video helps you guys out in preparing for her upcoming upgrades in Global Opera Omnia. Again, I just want to mention, if you guys want to support me further on the channel, I do have YouTube memberships. It is only 99 cents per month. Thank you guys again for watching. This is 40 the Broadway Saiyan signing out. Mahal, everyone.